My role is really being the connecting arm between clients and our internal teams, rather than having people have to go through 9 different groups in order to get an answer to something that they need or anything, any kind of touch points. Then my job is to kind of be the person that they can go to for anything and everything. I think that that's probably one of the more important things that a lot of agencies are disjointed with, is having too many people involved in too many conversations. And then there doesn't really seem to be any kind of a connecting thread. So my goal is to always be the connecting thread so that it is an easy process for them to get exactly what they need from us. And then
So
all
how do
the
you,
other fun stuff like emails and meetings.
right. How would you describe that, your position, to someone who doesn't understand marketing or advertising, doesn't understand our world?
Well, like my parents,
Yeah.
my mom that still tells everybody I work in advertising.
Just
uh,
advertising.
yeah, I mean, I kind of explain it in more of like a client relationship way, as opposed to all of the ins and outs of anything that's too detail specific. So it has a lot to do with, like I am the person that they can come to with questions. I am the person that maintains that relationship and hopefully grows that relationship to where this is not just a one and done project scenario, and we can maintain some kind of working relationship for, a longer period of time than what they might be used to elsewhere, but still actively engaged in all parts of their business. So that seems to resonate a little bit better, leaving all the buzzwords like marketing and advertising and agencies out of it.
Whenever we're meeting with a potential client and they're, evaluating if we're a good fit and vice versa, one of the first things well, maybe not first, but definitely one of the things that we'll ask about is, who's my point of contact? Who's my account person?
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great question, but why do you think that is always a question that we get? Why do you think clients want to know that for sure so early on?
Yeah, I think that they want to know from the very beginning, like how the process is going to flow. And if they have one person that they can go to with all of their questions, they're not spending their time and energy wasting that on trying to hunt people down or trying to get answers to things that they need quickly. Which I think is great. And it makes a ton of sense because I have been in scenarios, I'm sure everybody's in scenarios where like, I just need one person to answer one question and I can get so much done from that. So I think that it's super important to be able to have somebody to go to, knowing that they can get you the answer they need, even if they don't have it. And you don't have to
Yeah.
be the one searching for that.
Yeah. And I think part of it's also they've been burned in the past or didn't feel like they got good quality
Right.
information. So they're just like, who is it going to be?
Right. Or like we met this person once at the beginning and then like never heard from them again.
Right. And that happens all too often,
Right.
sadly. So before you came to Native, what was one of your favorite gigs that you had before coming here?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go way back because I worked on the beer cart at a golf course in college, and it was honestly the funnest way to get paid. I mean, like it was awesome. It was a blast. Like I got to be outside every day. I got to be engaged with people on a regular basis. Money was great, and like I made some of my best friends there. Like still, they're my best friends, and so it was. I mean, I know that that's like a little bit of a departure from this world, but honestly, it was like what got me interested in like wanting to maintain a career that was completely like focused on engagement with others,
Yeah.
and relationship building. So it's a little bit, I mean, if I could have done that the rest of my life and it not been like this very sad story of somebody that is just a beer cart girl forever, I would have done it. But it wasn't exactly the best career choice, I don't think.
It is funny though, because I do think most people in account at Native anyway have worked at food service or something like that before, where you're
Yeah,
learning how to deal with the general public and
right.
how to be of service to them and things like that. So I don't think I don't think it's an accident.
Yeah, I mean, if you can deal with like angry, like old golfers, then you can deal with anybody. So, I mean, it's
Right.
like a real test of wits and how much you can really handle.
Yeah, and then whenever you have one that you just really enjoy being around, like that's the rewarding part, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I still keep in contact with a lot of those guys whenever I go back to Lawrence. So it's a lot of fun.
So, and then before more recently you were in higher education,
Yeah.
account management, right? So what from that, your time there transferred over really well, and then what was kind of new about coming to native?
So I think that the new piece was definitely that obviously schools work in very like structured timelines. And so the majority of the things that I worked on were for like pushes towards an enrollment or pushes towards like a term of something starting. And so there was no like project timing in between. It was like August and January are two biggest months, no matter what. And so there was like this constant seasonality, and like December, everybody was pretty much working constantly. And then January, it was supposed to be like, it's this big moment for all the schools, right? But then like, okay, well, we did our job. So now we just kind of like need to sit back and wait a little bit. So I definitely don't like to be bored. So those kinds of interim like periods of quiet time, like we're not great for me. Um, but at the same time, I think the good things that I was able to take from there was just the amount of accounts that I had and being able to juggle priorities and make sure that, you know, there had to be, it couldn't be a mindset, oh, I have to get everything done in one day, which I would love to be able to do, but it was not realistic. And so it was like a real test of like how to prioritize and know, even if some people disagree, like this is absolutely the most important thing that I have to focus on today. And that has to be my mindset. So that's helped me a lot in being able to identify like where I really need to be focusing my time.
Yeah. So uh, in terms of things that, in a given week at native, what are the things that you look forward to the most, or the things that kind of energize you the most in a given week?
Well, I have specific internal meetings that recur on a weekly basis that we have just turned into a blast. And so those individual like times where like you get to connect with people like on our team, and especially in this environment where everything's digital and you don't get to interact with people all like face to face as much, like those are just fun. Like you get time to catch up, but then like like, okay, well, we definitely have stuff we need to talk about, so we need to move on. So I look forward to like a lot of our internal touch bases, just because it's nice to be able to catch up with everybody and build rapport around, especially if it's an account everybody really enjoys working on. It's just like a really great like energy starter before you actually like dive into the conversations about work. So I look forward to that a lot. um, I very much now enjoy the days I go into the office. I took them for granted, I think. And so those are days for me where I feel like, I mean, like I get a lot of stuff done at home, but I really enjoy like being in the environment where you can have a conversation with somebody face to face, because I think there's so much value in that you definitely take for granted when you're not able to do that. So that makes me really excited. And then I love when I know we have a client presentation for some kind of work that I'm really passionate about. There's just something behind it that is really energizing, and you're excited because you've already seen it internally and you've seen how it's going to go. And when you know that the client is going to react really well to it, you just kind of sit there like you're watching a movie, like excited for what's going to happen. So it's a lot of fun.
That is a great feeling whenever you see the work like right before it's going to be presented. You're like, oh, this is going to be
Yeah.
very well received.
Right.
You talked about kind of like the group get-togethers and things like that. Like we've got a pretty driven team here. There's a lot of self-motivated people. What, if you had to put your finger on it, like what drives you?
I'm very competitive too. Sometimes I think maybe to a fault. But like I've always been that way, and I'm like that in every aspect of my life. Like I constantly need to be the best, and I think I'm my own biggest critic, which I think is good at work because like I just like feel like if I'm not hitting my goals, then I know that I'm not doing the best that I can, and like I need to be the best in those scenarios. So I have really high standards, I think, for myself, which really motivates me to make sure that like I'm checking all of my boxes and any other imaginary boxes that I put into place that I think others have put there as well. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's why whenever I forget what it was, like a month or two ago, they're like, "Hey, Justin, do you want to play bags?" I'm like, "Only if Stephanie's on my team,"
I don't like to lose.
which I think we won, right?
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, we actually crushed.
Yeah.
um, if you were to, if you were to, if I was to ask other people at Native, like, hey, what's your favorite thing about Stephanie? What's her superpower? Things like that. Like, what do you think people would say?
Oh man, other people. Um, I think that I don't know if this is necessarily a superpower, but I think that it's probably pretty apparent just in interactions I have with people. I can't help but be very like invested and care in what I'm doing. I am like a work dreamer. So if I have something going on the next day at work, like I legitimately will have dreams about it the night before, or like I won't be able to sleep if I know I have something first thing in the morning. And so it's very hard for me to like detach from work, which obviously like at some points in time can be a little bit stressful, but at the same time, like there is not a single thing that I'm going to do or be involved with where I'm not going to be completely and utterly invested in. And I think that a lot of times when you get into scenarios with somebody where it feels like they don't care, it like everything else suffers. Morale suffers, the work suffers, interactions suffer, and I just don't ever think that I'll be in a position to be that person.
I completely agree with you. When you care, it's so deflating when you're around people who don't care, you
Right,
know, and you just don't want to be around them.
right.
I think we've taken pretty good care to make sure we care about bringing in people who care, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. It's very apparent just within each group that I've worked with. There's not anybody that has ever put in 50% and been okay with it, or even a scenario where if like that's happened. It's just everybody's always constantly putting their best foot forward and like wants it to be better. Even if it's already great, they want it to be better.
Yeah, knowing when to stop sometimes
It's a
can be a bit of
struggle.
a challenge. It's like we want to keep going. It's like there will be another thing. Let's
Yes.
apply that energy somewhere else. Um, Whenever I'm interviewing with people, a lot of times I'll hear them ask either me or someone else, you know, why they work at Native.
Mhm.
You're kind of, it feels like you're kind of touching on that. Why, you know, why do you work at Native?
Yeah, I think for me, it was like a really great transition point. I had been at my last agency for almost 7 years, and that aside from like that typical like ceiling, like feeling like you're like need to move on and explore something else, I was just very eager to know so many more things about different industries and different verticals. And even looking like just through the website and being able to see like the work that Native had done was a very like clear neon sign that like we do that here. Like we work in so many different spaces, we do so many different things for so many different companies and people. Like that's just something exciting that you want to be a part of. Like I would love to be able to work on construction one day and then immediately work in pharmaceuticals the next. Like it's just a very interesting setup to where you're not pigeonholed into one thing, and that to me was super appealing. And I liked the idea of a smaller shop coming from something that was much more corporate into something that felt a little bit more not startup, but something that you could like be a part of. Like it could be a part of the growth rather than coming in at peak growth and then eventually like something that it falls off. Like you can't stay, not many companies can stay super large and successful forever. So it's really exciting to get in early and be able to be more of like a collaborative piece of the growth. So, which is obviously like what's been happening, and we keep growing, and it's been exactly what I thought it would be.
That's cool. How have you seen us change since you've joined us?
Well, definitely just in numbers, which is awesome. I think the evolution of some of the roles and how things interact has been cool to see. It's been very apparent that we're aware of like where there's gaps that need to be filled, and then we fill them, or changes that need to be made and then changes are made. So it's really cool to see like more of like a fast paced rather than, okay, well, I know that we talked about this 6 months ago, but nothing's happened. Like I don't ever feel like that's been the case here. So I think that things are constantly evolving, but like when they should be evolving, which is awesome.
That's funny. It's funny you say that because I'm beating myself up because we're dealing with something that we've kind of hinted at for like a couple months. And I'm like, we got to move on this. We got to get this thing solved.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've been at a place where it's just like, oh, you know, what does the staff want to see improved? It's this thing, and it's been that thing for 5 years and nothing's changed.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I've heard other people say as well, is they feel like they have a hand on the steering wheel, and they I was talking to Christian, he said it just feels more democratic here. Like if
Yeah.
we're all trying to like make this thing the best we can, and we all feel like we have some input, and none of us have too much input, right? Like no one group or person has too much influence on it. He's like, that's probably a good thing, because I know if it was me, I'd steer it maybe the wrong way.
Yeah.
So um so we hit our fifth anniversary this year.
Mhm.
Have you had, since your time here, have you had any kind of favorite stories that you tell friends or family about where you work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, I love a good theme party. So I definitely am putting the Christmas disco party at the top of my list because, I mean, I think that it's always nice when you're in an environment and you're with a group of people that you work with every day and you're not completely annoyed by the thought of hanging out with them outside of work. So, I mean, I think that that's like a really understated thing that like people take for granted when you're in a position of like, oh, I have to go to another barbecue, or oh, I have to go do this. Like when you're in an environment to where you get excited about like, oh, I can't wait to hang out with everybody I work with. Like that's pretty cool. And so I think that I think that's another just big selling point of like why it's felt like such a good fit for me, because I don't want to like come in and then log off and then be done. And like, okay, well, I cannot wait to not talk to anybody until 8 a.m. tomorrow. So I think that was fun. It was a great time. Like everybody just gets along so well and like seemingly like wants to be there and be involved. Where like yeah, I think that's something to brag about for sure.